Hey, now can you hear me? Let's try that again. Yep. Got it. Should be coming through now. Helps if you unmute your microphone. So I'll wait for you guys. Yeah, there we go. Good. Hi, guys. Right, so let's try that again. Hi. Another edition of the Long Range Corner with your host, Matt Bardeen. Yep. Technical problems. 3 topics that I want to discuss. The M9 Gimbal problems that I had. I want to talk about the Quantum 2.4 gigahertz diversity system. My initial impressions. I've just had a couple flights with this. And then I want to talk about the QAV540 and my first flights with that. So let's get this started. So some of you have seen the video with my Alien. Basically, I was flying along and all of a sudden the quad just suddenly jumped yawed left like 180 degrees. And I initially thought this was a problem of the quad itself. So I brought the quad back down, started blowing out the motors because there was a bit of grit in them. And that didn't really help. So I thought maybe it was the crossfire, just radio interference, something like that. I initially had the diamond on it. I changed it out with the original antenna, and it continued to do it. So that was kind of weird. But I figured it was a quad thing. And then I sent the TBS G2 up, and it did the same thing. So my suspicions were crossfire or the actual Tranits itself. So given that they were the M9 Hall gimbals, I felt that that was pretty unlikely that it should be jumping like that. You'll get that jump in pots that have been degraded. So if you have the potentiometers, the old style gimbals, they'll do that after they wear out. So yeah, I figured, no, it's probably the crossfire. But after talking to Trappy about that, he said, all the crossfire it has checksummed and hashed, so you shouldn't get jumps, like specific jumps like that. If you get signal interference, you get signal degradation. So that's a pretty compelling argument against crossfire problems. So based on that, I started taking a look, and I was able to, I looked for M9 gimbal problems, and I ran across a thread on RC groups where they were showing jump to the left. So that's, okay, so there's something going on there, just yaw to the left. So I took it apart. Well, actually, I first booted it up and just tried to reproduce the problem, moving the throttle up and down really quickly. And I could see it almost immediately. That every once in a while, the yaw would just jump to the left, just jump to the left. So I was like, yeah, okay. So it's a gimbal problem. Not knowing where it was, I was kind of concerned. Yeah, what was going on? Why was it doing that? Was it the sensor that was bad? Was there dirt in it? What was going on? I took the gimbal up, or took the Tranits apart and checked it with a multimeter, and I was able to see as I moved the cable, just wiggled the cable, that the resistance would go to infinity along that wire. So obviously there was a short or a break in the contact in that wire. And after resoldering it, basically I unsoldered the wire and just checked the wire, made sure that there's continuity in the wire the entire time, just moving it around, and there was. So there wasn't a break in the wire, but the solder joint had failed. So I resoldered it. Obviously the solder joint had failed. So I resoldered it and put it back in and tested it out, and so far it's been good. So if you have problems with your M9 gimbals, I'm thinking the yaw is most likely to be affected because you get a lot of up and down motion on the throttle, whereas pitch and roll tends to be quite a bit less. So, but if you start having problems with your gimbals where it's starting to jump, check the solder joints. So that's the story of that. All that bolt killer. Yeah, so tonight we're having again Cerveza Austral. Patagonia Pale Ale. That's what I've got in stock right now. Bought a 4-pack, and no diversity here. No big choices. Yeah, so now impressions on the Quantum 2.4 gigahertz diversity. I only had a couple plates here at the house. I was testing out the QAV540, so I wanted to check out, do both at the same time. Kill two birds with one stone. And I have to say that the house there's Wi-Fi up in the attic. It's fairly high power Wi-Fi. I'm sure the neighbors have Wi-Fi as well. So it's not a very clean environment. I changed the channels to 2510. I've had good experiences on that in the past using the Immersion RC transmitter. So I changed that over to 2510 on the QAV540 and set this to 2540 or 2510 and tried flying. And my impression wasn't that favorable. I'll say that. Typically, the signal would degrade, and then it would just. It's hard to describe. I wish I had the DVR, but I didn't have like the SD card in my camera, or SD card in my goggles, so I didn't record the DVR. But basically, what happens is it takes a while to come back from like a signal loss. So I get a little interference, and then the video would kind of fade. It'd get really dark, you get really interference, and then really dark, and then eventually come back to up to normal speed, normal video, normal lightness. And that was common. I thought maybe that was the result of the diversity on this, switching between the antennas. My friend Gone Q, he tested the 5.8 version of this and said there was a problem with the switching speed. So I said, okay, maybe it's the switching between the antennas. Because at times it was really good and at times it was really bad. So I tried, this has a mode where you can output output basically what each receiver is receiving on two independent channels, so you can see exactly what each channel is doing. So I said, okay, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to leave it in diversity 1 and transmit the diversity 1 or diversity, the channel 1 receiver or channel 2 receiver, and use those independently. And it did the same thing. So I have to say, at least in high noise environments, I'm not very impressed. I'm not too keen on how this has performed in comparison with the Duo 2400, which is what I've got. That's my standard 2.4 gigahertz. That deals with the signal dropouts much better. It comes back almost immediately. It's fast. So yeah, in comparison to that, no. I have used the goggle or the receiver on the goggles, the goggle module, and my experience with that is it's better than their receivers in this. So I don't know if it's a problem with the receiver, if it's a problem with firmware, what, but not very impressed so far. So that's the second issue taken care of. The third issue that I've got, or the third topic that I've got, is the QAV540 and the initial impressions. In general, I don't think the efficiency is going to equal the G2. That's my initial impression. Of course, once again, don't have DVR because I'm an idiot at times. But yeah, so I don't have the DVR of that. But my impression, at least judging from the flight time on a 5,000 amp hour battery, and just playing around, looking at the amps used, I think the G2 is going to win in terms of flight time, and therefore probably in terms of distance. Once you get up into the bigger props, you naturally go slower. So bigger props on the same voltage typically go slower than smaller props on the same voltage. I don't know if you guys knew that, but that seems to be a fairly common thing. fairly, perhaps non-intuitive. Pitch does play a difference. The pitch of the prop basically tells you how fast you're going to go, but what really makes the difference is how big the props are. So 13-inch props are always going to travel slower than, say, 6-inch or 7-inch props. So there's that. So my initial impressions with the QAV540 is it's going to lose out to the G2, and it's not as stable as I'd like. Now, I haven't spent a lot of time tuning it. I've had some problems with my radio. The Lua script on the Crossfire for some reason keeps giving me out of memory errors, so it's been a pretty painful process trying to tune that. At the moment, I think I've got it overtuned. The the P gain is too high, and it has an oscillation. So I've got to play with that and figure out what's going on with that. But in general, it's not as stable as I'd like. There's a lot of bobbles. There's a lot of movement, even in fairly calm air. So, Mike Stevens. No, I have not tried this new HQ7 by 3.5 by 3 props. Like, I really want to. I put in a request to Zhang to send me some for the Chinese New Year thing. I hope to get into that, but obviously I didn't add the 20 people correctly or something like that, so I never got the props. So I haven't had a chance to test them. And amp hungry, but give you buttery smooth footage. Yeah, I imagine that. They look pretty good. I saw Stephen Price's first videos on that, and they looked pretty decent. I will say I used a Luminaire gate crasher 6x5 by 3s up in Blanchon, and they actually did pretty good. I was really happy with the footage they gave. I've got a little bit too much D, so there's a little bit of vibration there, a little bit of oscillation, but in general, I was pretty happy with how they performed and the efficiency as well. I think I traveled 13.8 kilometers and used something like 3,800 milliamp hours on the G2 in that setting. So, of course, your kilometer. Your mileage may vary. Bi-blades, yeah. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with the bi-blades. I really don't understand what has happened. Peter Flex FPV says bi-blades have too much vibration. Tri-blade on anything will give you butter video. Yeah, I don't exactly know what's going on with the newer flight controllers. Actually, it's not the flight controller, it's the software. So I don't know what has happened in between, say, 2015, 16, when the KISS FC first came out. If you go back and look at the flight footage from that era, bi-blades were perfect. They did really good. And then somewhere in between, something changed on the software and things started getting really bad with bi-blades. So bi-blades are really great for efficiency, but they're horrible for tuning and vibrations, and I don't know why. It's just something with the flight controllers. I'm not sure I don't think many people are using bi-blades anymore. A lot of people are using tri-blades, even the developers. So maybe the default tune or the default filters are basically done for tri-blades. I just don't know. I don't understand it. I wish I knew. I really do. But I've talked about that before. I've talked about my theories on that. So we'll have to check it out. I've actually just found my Cinetank, my Tankito 20, or yeah, my Flying Cinema Tankito 30, and I really like that. That's a fairly heavy 6-inch quad. I hope to recover that and maybe put it back into use and see if I can get some good footage out of that, because previously I was getting really good footage out of that. Now, not so much. So yeah, there you go. I don't know, that's basically the topics I've got. I wanted to show you the the footage from the DVR for my flight up at Planchon, but unfortunately it didn't record for some reason. All my other flights there recorded, just that one didn't. A little bit frustrating. My buddy recorded it, GoneQ recorded it, but he claims that I told him the wrong channel. So for the first part of the flight, he was recording on the wrong channel and had really bad video. So I may edit up another video later on this week and show you, what was going on and why I eventually turned around. Basically, it was a bad RF. Got to about 4.2 kilometers, I think, was the max distance, and 2 watts of power on the Crossfire and 40% signal link quality. So I said, yeah, nope, no more. We're going to turn around. I don't want to walk that far. So flashback to the 2016 firmwares when we had Integer and LexFloat. Yeah, that'd be great. That's on beta flight though. That would be very interesting to see how that performs. I'm curious to see what's changed, what has happened in those times. Any news with the QAV540? I just talked about that, Gons. I flew it. It flew okay, but there's a lot of vibrations. I think that it needs better tuning. That's my considered opinion. Just the same, I'm not sure it's going to get great footage. I may just to check it, throw on the 9-blade or the 3-blade 9-inch props that I have to see if I can tune it better with those. That would be a really interesting comparison to see if, the 13-inch props, these are 13-inch HQs that I'm using. No, sorry, 12-inch. Sorry, 13. 12-inch HQs that I'm using, and see if throwing on some tri-blades, large-size tri-blades, will actually make a difference or not, without doing too much more to the tune. So, yeah, that's the basic plan. I think I'm going to try that. At this point, I'm just my vacation is about to end. On Monday, I go back to work, so I'm desperately trying to finish up with all the projects that I've had pending around the house. And unfortunately, I think I've left a lot of them for too long. So, and they're more involved than I had anticipated, and they're going to cost me more money than I anticipated. So yeah, quad stuff is a little bit on the back burner for the moment due to time constrictions and whatnot, and money constrictions. But yeah, so I wanted to report that. I'm going to test out, like I said, the Quanum 2.4 diversity later on in the season, and with a low noise environment, and see if they perform any better. I'd really like to get 2 DVRs so I can record what both of these, what the immersion sees and what this sees, and show you a side-by-side comparison. Yeah, I saw that, Gons. Thank you for that. I will probably post that up later. Gons has just sent me the DVR, I think. Let's check this out. Yeah, so we got a little bit of DVR footage here. And it's quite bad, but yeah, there we go. Okay, well, I'll put that up in the chat so you guys can check it out. It's unlisted, but I don't think he's going to mind if you check it out. Alright, guys. Ah! I lost you. Oh, okay. Well, that was not good. You guys disappeared. I can't see my chat. And there we go. So that's in chat now. Sorry about that. Technical issues. Really good tonight. So you can check that out. Let me see. It should be... I think the max distance was right about minute 2:27. 2:34. Oh wow, I got farther out than I thought. We were at 4.8 kilometers when I turned around. I even lied to you guys. Yeah, so 4.8 kilometers. I probably could have pushed it, but it was right about 50% link quality. So, and that is at 3 minutes 16 seconds. So you guys can check that out. So you can see what I was dealing with. The video was pretty nasty as well, I must say. I was using the Furious True D, and that did pretty decently, but it had periods where it was just faded out into static, and then came back and then faded out into static. So there was obviously a lot of interference there, like a lot of RF interference, and it kind of makes sense because most of those mountains have a high copper content. Some of the pictures, I'm not, maybe I don't show that in the pictures, but the mountains were green, kind of a lime green color, and that's really indicative of high copper content because it's oxidized copper. Right. So any other questions for me? Any questions, burning questions you've got? Yeah, well, YouTube destroys any quality. Gonzalo says YouTube destroys DVR quality. YouTube destroys basically any quality, any video. If you want good video, you need to put it up on AirViews or something like that. AirViews is really good for not destroying the video quality, and I like that. I'm not too keen on their lack of statistics and lack of good commenting system, but other than that, it's good, and I think it's a fairly limited audience. That's the other thing I don't like. But other than that, for quality, AirViews rules. He said the DVR footage is split into 3 parts. He's going to upload the first or the second and third parts later. Okay, well, so if you guys don't have any other questions for me, I know that I said this is going to be quick. I finished my beer, which is indicative of when is the right moment to turn back? That's a good question. When you don't feel comfortable with your flight, I'm going to put it that way. If you know your equipment, if you've got experience with your equipment, you kind of have a feel for what's good and what's bad. I've never lost a quad from basically going outside my limits. I've lost quads for stupidity. You know, oh, I was stupid. I was doing something wrong. I flew behind a mountain, but I haven't lost a quad due to, you know, a fail-safe where, you know, I've lost video signal or I've lost radio signal from distance. So you have to gauge link quality. I'd say about 50% link quality is about the limit as to where I'll go, especially if I'm already at, for example, the highest that I can. In the Crossfire, 2 watts is the highest that you can transmit at. So if you're flying at 2 watts and you're at 50% link quality, then it's probably the moment to turn back, especially if it's a fairly long period at 50% link quality. So that's how I usually gauge it. When I look at my quad, look at my flights, if I'm at max power and the link quality is bad, I'll turn around. In terms of video, if the video is consistently bad, if it's really getting snowy, then I'll turn back. For example, in the DVR, of the plant of Campanario that I showed in one of the long-range corners, basically I showed what was happening with my Duo 5800, where I was losing video at probably about 4 kilometers. So, you know, if it was consistently bad, I could see the mountain, I could see the outline of the mountain, but I was sure that it wasn't going to be good. It wasn't going to be better later on. So I figured, you know, it's better to turn back then when I still had a little bit of a chance, rather than trying to push it and, you know, risking turning around and just losing all video. So I kind of gauge it like that. How about trying iNav on the QAV540? I'm tempted to do that. I'm tempted. I'd have to change the flight controller out and use like a NASE or something else that could run Betaflight, but this is a possibility. I'm not sure how much I'm willing to invest in this QAV540 project. I mean, especially if it's not going to give me if it's not going to give me the efficiency that I want. I mean, if the video is not going to be any smoother and the efficiency is not going to be greater, why? I mean, it's interesting as an experiment, but if it's not going to give me better results, then I'm not sure how much more willing I'm ready to, or how much more time I'm willing to invest in the project. But I'll check it out. I'm going to do some thinking and see if I can get it tuned better on the KISS that I've got in there. And if I can, then I'll start to see where do I go with it. Edir asks, he's been flying in Valparaiso, which is a coastal city. He wants to know where to investigate about tuning for the wind. Bien, Edir. No es una pregunta fácil. Típicamente, para combatir el viento, ¿quieres hélices más pequeños? ¿Quieres un P un poquito más alto y un D un poquito más alto para combatir esta influencia del viento? Basically, what I'm saying, you should use probably lower size props, because the quad theory basically says, let me see if I get the prop here. So as the prop is spinning, you can almost imagine it as a solid disc. And that is basically what's presenting itself to the wind. So if you've got larger props, you're going to have more wind influence. So it's going to affect the quad more. So if you've got a 4-inch or a 3-inch setup, which with really high KV, that will probably combat the influence of the wind more or better than on large size props. Basically because it's presenting a smaller size to the wind. Now, what the problem with that is that you're actually talking about a smaller size, lighter weight. So a lighter weight should be more influenced by the wind. So I think there's a trade-off there. You're going to have to do a little bit of investigating. But typically what you want is a little bit of higher P and a little bit higher D. How high can you go? Well, that depends on your frame. You'll have to experiment. Basically, the highest P that you want is until the theory of tuning is you start with really low D, really low I, and then take your P and from a fairly low level, and then start to increase it gradually until you start seeing oscillations. And I'd look for oscillations in the video, not your video feed, but the recorded video for your quad. So you look for oscillations. And then you lower it from there about 10%. And then you do the same with D. So you start increasing the D until you get start seeing oscillations, and then you lower it 10%. And then maybe you can up the P a little bit more until you start seeing oscillations, and then lower it 10%. So that's basically the idea. And then I is for when you're flying along, you set your angle that you want to fly at. If it goes back, if it starts leveling out, then you want to increase your I, because the I is basically what holds you in position. So that's the basic theory of tuning. That's what you should be doing when you're tuning. And you do that wherever. If you got wind, if you don't have wind. And wind is going to affect your quad regardless. There's not much you can do about it. It's going to affect your quad less than a wing, for example. But, yeah, okay. Any other questions that you guys have? It's my little treatise on tuning. That's what I've read. Do I follow that? No, not really, but I should. Right, if there's no more questions, I'm going to leave it for here. Diamond or Mux? Depends on what you want to do. Diamond is for omni. It's an omnidirectional antenna. The Moxon antenna is for directional. So the Moxon is directional. I would have preferred a Moxon when it was up in Planchon, because I think my signal would have been better. I would have been transmitting more signal directly in front of me rather than signal equidistance all around. So with a Moxon, for a lot of the flying I do, if I'm doing in like long distance flying in one direction, a Moxon is probably what you want. If you want to just go and explore, then yeah, the diamond or the normal antenna would be better. You should know that, Fox. Come on. Actually, somebody said that they saw Alex Greaves talking about the Moxon antenna. He said it's an older design. Yeah, it is a really old design, but it was superseded by the diamond antenna. But in reality, that they're two completely different things. The diamond antenna, like I said, is an omnidirectional antenna, and the Moxon is a directional antenna. Right. Okay. Well, my beer is done. It's 30 minutes, 34 minutes to be exact. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Be back next week, hopefully, with a little bit more info. When are you getting a Nano? When I make my next purchase from Team Black Sheep? Most likely, it's not going to be anytime soon, because I don't need a Nano for any of my builds. Actually, I would like a Nano in my X24, but since I just blew up an ESC on that, yeah, it's going to be a while. Yeah, it'll probably be 2 months, 3 months before I get a Nano. I'll try to get one in. I want to get a KISS 2 and KISS 32 ESCs for that quad, the X24. That's got the F80s on it, so it could use that extra power. This other thing I wanted to mention. Just recently I saw that KISS Flyduino has come out with a new firmware for the KISS 24s. And that allows a lot of the things. It allows you to put wave files, smaller wave files, but wave files nonetheless, sounds, on your KISS 24 ESCs, for those of you that are interested in that. And it also allows a little bit higher amperage. Previously, I think the amperage was, the current limiter was set at 30 amps, and it's now set at 35 amps. So if you look around in RC groups, the KISS 24 group, I think it's there. You can find that. It's a beta firmware, so your mileage may vary. They said it's faster PWM as well, so it should be a bit smoother. So that's something to check out. I think I want to check that out on my KISS 24 or my Alien, since that's the KISS 24s, and see if I can get even better footage, even smoother quad. Anyway, okay. Well, that's the last bit of news that I've got for tonight. I'll see you guys next week with some more interesting, exciting developments, hopefully, if I can actually find the time and do something with my quads rather than sit here and work on my house. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. Peace out. Ciao.